When people try to trigger you, the very first thing you must understand is that their power only works if you give them access to your emotions. No one can truly control how you feel unless you hand them the keys. Think about it. When someone provokes you, they're really testing whether you'll allow them to enter your mental space and disrupt your balance. If you react instantly with anger, you've handed over your control. But when you stay calm, when you breathe, when you hold your ground, you remind yourself that your peace is not for sale. The truth is, most people who try to provoke you are doing it because they want a reaction. They feed off your energy, your frustration, your anger. It makes them feel powerful for a moment. But if you don't give them that satisfaction, if you maintain your composure, you take back all the power. Imagine someone shouting in your face, expecting you to explode, and instead you stand there calm, steady, unshaken. That's strength. That's control. That's discipline. Staying calm is not about being passive. It's not about letting people walk all over you. It's about mastering yourself so completely that no one else gets to dictate your emotional state. When you rise above the chaos, you're no longer playing their game. You're playing yours. And the person who plays their own game always wins. To do this, you must slow everything down. The moment someone tries to trigger you, don't react. Take a breath. Step back mentally and observe what's happening. Ask yourself, why are they saying this? What do they want from me? What reaction are they fishing for? When you start analyzing instead of reacting, you shift from being a victim of the moment to being the one in control of it. The first and most important key point in learning how to stay calm when everyone tries to trigger you is understanding that their power only works if you give them access to your emotions. This sounds simple, but it's a truth that most people forget in the heat of the moment. We often assume that other people make us angry or make us upset, but the reality is that no one can make you feel anything without your permission. Your emotions are yours, and the moment you start believing that someone else controls them, you've already surrendered your power. Think about it this way. If someone insults you, what actually happens? Their words leave their mouth and hit your ears. That's all. It's you who assigns meaning to those words. It's you who decides whether to let them roll off your back or allow them to dig into your skin. And yet, in that split second, most people don't even pause to choose. They immediately react, giving the other person exactly what they wanted. A rise, a reaction, proof that they got under your skin. That is giving away your power. It's like handing over the remote control to your emotions and letting someone else change the channel whenever they feel like it. When you realize that you don't have to react instantly, everything changes. You begin to see how much influence you actually have over yourself. Imagine standing in front of someone who is trying to provoke you. They raise their voice, they throw an insult, maybe even try to humiliate you in front of others. In that moment, the temptation to fire back is strong, but what if you didn't? What if you stood there, calm, composed, breathing slowly, with your body language relaxed and your face unbothered? What would that do? It would completely shift the power dynamic. The other person would expect an explosion and instead meet silence, self-control, and restraint. That's when the real power shows itself. It's important to recognize that most people who try to trigger you aren't doing it by accident. They're deliberately testing your boundaries to see how much control they can exert over you. Bullies in school do it. CO workers in the office do it. Sometimes even family members do it. They throw little jabs, sarcastic comments, or outright insults, and they watch to see if you'll break. But here's the truth. If you don't take the bait, they lose their grip. They can only play their game if you agree to play along. The moment you step out of it, they're left with nothing. But here's the challenge. Staying calm doesn't always feel natural. Our brains are wired with a fight or flight response. When we feel attacked, our instinct is to defend ourselves, to fight back, or to run away. Staying calm goes against that instinct, and that's why it requires practice and awareness. The more you train yourself to pause, to breathe, and to choose your response, the easier it becomes. It's like building a muscle. At first, it feels heavy and difficult, but with repetition, you become stronger and more capable of holding your ground. Another way to look at it is this. Every time you give your emotions away to someone else, you're paying them with your energy. You're allowing them to rent space in your mind for free. You carry their words with you for hours, sometimes even days, replaying the situation in your head, feeling the anger over and over again. Meanwhile, the person who triggered you may have already forgotten about it. They've moved on while you're still stuck in that moment. When you stay calm, you break that cycle. You protect your energy. You refuse to carry unnecessary weight that doesn't belong to you. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. Suppression is different from control. Suppression means pushing emotions down until they explode later. Control means recognizing your emotions, understanding them, but choosing not to let them run the show. For example, you might feel anger rise inside you when someone disrespects you. That's natural. But instead of lashing out, you can acknowledge the anger, breathe through it, and remind yourself, I'm in control here. They don't get to decide how I feel. That small shift in mindset puts you back in the driver's seat. The best part of mastering the skill is that it makes you untouchable in situations where others would normally crumble. Think of leaders, negotiators, or people who are constantly under pressure. The ones who rise to the top aren't the loudest or the most reactive. They're the ones who stay calm under fire. They understand that reacting emotionally gives others leverage. By staying calm, they maintain clarity, and clarity is what allows them to make the best decisions. You can apply this in everyday life too. If a stranger cuts you off in traffic, you can choose to let it ruin your day, or you can stay calm, knowing that your peace of mind is more valuable than a few seconds of road rage. If someone in your workplace undermines you, you can either get drawn into drama, or you can stay calm, address it logically, and keep your reputation intact. Every situation where you choose calm over reaction is another victory, another reminder that you control your emotions, not anyone else. Ultimately, this key point comes down to reclaiming ownership of your emotional state. The world is full of people who will test you, push you, and try to get a reaction out of you. But if you understand that their power only exists if you give it to them, then you no longer have to play that game. You get to choose peace over chaos, control over reaction, and self-mastery over surrender. The second key point is understanding that most people who try to provoke you are doing it because they want a reaction. They thrive on your response. They feed off your energy. When you get angry, when you raise your voice, when you lose control, they see it as a victory. It validates them. It makes them feel powerful. But if you don't give them what they're looking for, if you maintain your composure, they lose their grip on you. They're left empty-handed because the game they set up only works if you agree to play it. Think about how human interaction works. People send out signals all the time. Some signals are positive. Kindness, respect, encouragement, but others are negative. Sarcasm, insults, mockery. When someone throws negativity your way, they're essentially setting a trap. They want to see if you'll step into it. If you do, you confirm their control over you. You've shown them they can push your buttons. But when you resist, when you remain unshaken, you send a completely different message. You don't control me. You don't own my emotions. That's when you start shifting the power back in your direction. You see this dynamic everywhere. On the playground, the bully taunts a kid until they cry because the tears are proof the bully succeeded. In workplaces, some colleagues stir drama just to see who will explode first because the explosion entertains them or gives them leverage. In relationships, some people provoke arguments to feel validated because your reaction shows you care or that they've gotten under your skin. The pattern is the same. The person doing the triggering wants fuel, and your emotional reaction is that fuel. Without it, they have nothing to feed on. It's important to recognize that this isn't always conscious. Sometimes people provoke others without even realizing they're doing it. They may be projecting their own insecurities, anger, or unhappiness onto you. But whether it's intentional or not, the effect is the same. They're trying to draw you into their storm. And when you let them, you find yourself spinning in circles, drained of energy, wondering how you got pulled into something that didn't even matter. The only way to stop that cycle is to stop feeding it. Imagine this. Someone insults you in front of others, expecting you to defend yourself or snap back. Instead, you pause, look at them calmly, and carry on without reacting. What happens? The tension shifts. They're left uncomfortable because the energy they were expecting never came. They wanted a battle, but you refused to step into the arena. That quiet strength unsettles people more than any comeback ever could. Your calmness becomes louder than their provocation. The psychology behind this is fascinating. People who provoke you are seeking control, even if only for a moment. When you react emotionally, you hand them exactly that. You give them the satisfaction of knowing they've influenced you. But if you don't react, they're forced to face their own emptiness. They realize that their attempts to control you failed. And here's the irony. The calmer you remain, the more powerful you appear. Because control is attractive. Composure is rare. Most people are so quick to react that when someone doesn't, it stands out as strength. There's also a deeper lesson here. Not every battle is worth fighting. You don't need to answer every insult. You don't need to respond to every jab. You don't need to prove yourself to people who are only trying to provoke you. Sometimes silence is the strongest response. Sometimes walking away is the greatest victory. By refusing to engage, you're not letting them win. You're showing that the game itself isn't worth your time. Of course, this doesn't mean you allow people to disrespect you without boundaries. Staying calm isn't about tolerating abuse or being passive. It's about choosing how and when to respond. You can calmly set limits. You can firmly but respectfully assert yourself without anger. For example, if someone repeatedly tries to provoke you, you can say, "I am not engaging in this conversation if it's going to be disrespectful." That statement is powerful because it establishes boundaries without giving away emotional control. It sends the message that you won't be manipulated, yet you won't stoop to their level either. When you stop giving people the reaction they want, they eventually stop trying. It's like a fire without oxygen. It dies out. They might push harder at first, but when they see that nothing works, they lose interest. They'll look elsewhere for someone easier to provoke, and while they're wasting energy on someone else, you'll still be standing tall, conserving your strength, protecting your peace. There's a saying that where attention goes, energy flows. The same is true for reactions. If you pour your energy into every person who tries to trigger you, you'll be drained all the time. But if you redirect that energy into your goals, your growth, your future, you will rise above the petty distractions that others try to throw in your path. Their attempts to provoke you will seem smaller and smaller because you'll be focused on something much bigger. And that's the ultimate shift. You stop seeing provocation as an attack and start seeing it as a test. Every time someone tries to get under your skin, you have a choice: give them what they want or take it as an opportunity to prove to yourself that you're stronger than the moment. When you choose the latter, you don't just win against them. You win against the part of yourself that once reacted without thinking. You grow. You build discipline. You master your emotions one choice at a time. The third key point is recognizing that staying calm is not about being passive or weak. It is about mastering yourself so completely that no one else gets to dictate your emotional state. Too often, people confuse calmness with indifference, as if being calm means you don't care, or worse, that you're letting others walk all over you. That couldn't be further from the truth. Real calmness is an act of strength, not weakness. It's the ability to feel anger, frustration, or even humiliation rising inside of you, but choosing not to let those emotions control your behavior. It's self-mastery in its purest form. Think about what happens when you lose your temper. For a few seconds, maybe even a few minutes, it feels powerful. You raise your voice, you lash out, and you feel like you're asserting yourself. But what happens after? Often, you regret the words you said in anger. You wish you had handled the situation differently. You realize that the other person succeeded in pulling you out of character. That momentary explosion, which felt like power, was actually a loss of control. Calmness, on the other hand, is power without regret. It's a strength that doesn't evaporate when the moment passes. When you stay calm, you're not ignoring the problem, you're rising above it. You're showing that you're not controlled by external forces, but guided by your own inner compass. People may try to manipulate you, push your buttons, or drag you into arguments, but when you stand firm in your composure, you're declaring, "I decide how I respond. I decide how I feel. I decide what energy I allow into my space." That declaration is silent, but it is louder than any argument you could ever have. Consider leaders throughout history, or even in modern times, who are admired for their strength. What is it about them that inspires respect? It's not that they yelled the loudest or reacted the fastest. It's that they held their ground with calmness, even when the world around them was chaotic. They made decisions with a clear mind, while others were clouded by emotion. That's why people trusted them, followed them, and looked to them in moments of crisis. Calmness doesn't just protect your own peace, it makes you someone others can rely on. Now imagine this on a personal level. If your friend lashes out at you, if a stranger tries to insult you, if a coworker undermines you, how powerful would it be to respond not with anger, but with composure? That doesn't mean you stay silent in every situation. It means you choose your words with clarity and strength. A calm response can carry far more weight than an angry one. For example, instead of shouting back, you might say, "I'm not going to let this conversation go in that direction." That one sentence, delivered calmly, can shut down an argument faster than 10 minutes of screaming ever could. The irony is that people often mistake calmness for weakness until they experience it. When someone expects you to explode, and you don't. When they expect tears, but you stand firm. When they expect you to break and you remain solid. That's when they realize your calmness is not weakness. It's discipline. It's control. It's something most people don't have. And in that realization, they begin to respect you, even if they won't admit it. It's also worth remembering that calmness doesn't mean the absence of emotion. You're not a robot. You'll still feel anger, frustration, sadness, or disappointment. The difference is that you don't allow those emotions to drive your behavior. You acknowledge them, you sit with them, but you decide when and how to express them. That's what separates calm people from reactive people. Reactive people let their emotions run the show. Calm people let emotions inform their decisions but never control them. One of the best ways to practice this is through awareness. Start noticing your triggers. Pay attention to the situations or people that usually make you lose control. Then remind yourself every trigger is a test. Every time you pass, you get stronger. The more you choose calmness over reaction, the more it becomes your natural state. Eventually, people will stop trying to provoke you because they'll know it doesn't work. Your reputation will precede you. You're someone who can't be shaken easily. Calmness also has a ripple effect. When you stay composed in the face of provocation, it influences the people around you. Imagine being in a group where one person loses control and starts shouting. If you join in, the chaos spreads. But if you remain calm, others will start to mirror your composure. Your calm becomes contagious. It sets the tone for the entire room. That's why calmness is not just self-mastery. It's leadership. Another way to look at it is this. Calmness is a shield. It protects you from being manipulated. It protects you from saying or doing things you'll later regret. It protects you from wasting your energy on battles that don't matter. But it's also a sword. It unsettles those who try to provoke you. It forces them to rethink their tactics. It shows them that you are not someone who can be easily swayed. When you master calmness, you walk into every situation with invisible armor. At the core of it all, calmness is about freedom. Freedom from being controlled by other people. Freedom from being enslaved to your own impulses. Freedom to respond instead of react. Freedom to live on your own terms. When you realize that, calmness stops being something you practice only in heated moments. It becomes a way of life. It becomes the foundation upon which you build your interactions, your relationships, and your future. The fourth key point is learning to slow everything down the moment someone tries to trigger you. Most people go through life on autopilot, reacting instantly to whatever is thrown their way. Someone insults them. They fire back. Someone cuts them off in traffic. They start honking and shouting. Someone questions their ability. They immediately get defensive. This knee-jerk reaction is natural because it's how the human brain has been wired for survival. We sense a threat, and our body prepares us to fight or flee. But here's the truth. Not every situation is a threat to your survival. Most of the time, it's just words, looks, or gestures. And if you don't learn to slow down, you'll keep giving your power away in moments that don't even deserve your energy. Slowing down means pressing pause before you act. It means catching yourself in that split second between provocation and reaction and choosing to take control of the moment instead of letting the moment control you. Imagine someone throwing a sarcastic remark at you in front of others. Your instinct might be to respond immediately, to defend yourself or hit back harder. But if you pause, breathe, and let a few seconds pass, something powerful happens. Your emotions begin to settle, your perspective widens, and you can actually think. That pause separates the reactive from the powerful. When you slow things down, you shift from being emotional to being strategic. Instead of being a puppet pulled by strings, you become the one holding the strings. You're no longer at the mercy of your impulses. You're analyzing, observing, and then deciding what to do. For example, if someone tries to provoke you in a meeting, instead of snapping, you might take a moment to watch their body language, listen to their tone, and think, why are they saying this? What's their goal? Do they want to embarrass me? Do they want to throw me off balance? By slowing down, you're no longer blinded by emotion. You're looking deeper. That's when you gain the upper hand. Slowing down is also about controlling your breathing and your body. When you feel triggered, your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart rate rises, your muscles tense, your face heats up. If you don't control your body, your emotions will spiral out of control with it. But if you take slow, deep breaths, if you unclench your fists, if you deliberately relax your posture, your body sends a signal back to your mind that says, we are safe. We are in control. That small act of slowing your physical reactions keeps your emotional reactions in check. This ability to pause doesn't just protect you from losing your temper, it gives you time to choose the most effective response. Sometimes the best response is silence. Sometimes it's humor. Sometimes it's calmly setting a boundary. But you can't choose wisely if you're reacting instantly. Reactivity is blind. Deliberate action is precise. By slowing down, you give yourself the gift of choice, and choice is where real power lies. Think about people you admire who handle pressure with grace. They don't rush into words or actions. They pause. They think. They often speak slower and softer than the person who is trying to provoke them. Why? Because they know that control over pace equals control over power. The faster you react, the more likely you are to lose control. The slower you go, the more centered you become. It's almost like slowing time itself. While everyone else is caught up in chaos, you're calmly observing and maneuvering. Slowing down also protects your reputation. Anyone can explode in anger. That doesn't take strength. But when you're known as the person who remains composed, who doesn't get rattled easily, people begin to see you as dependable, as someone with authority. That kind of respect isn't built by reacting fast. It's built by reacting wisely, and that wisdom comes from slowing down. It's also important to remember that people who try to trigger you often want you to act quickly. They want to catch you off guard so you'll say something foolish, lash out, or make yourself look bad. When you pause instead, you ruin their strategy, you take away their advantage. Imagine a debate where one person tries to get under the other's skin with constant jabs. If the second person reacts instantly, they lose credibility. But if they pause, smile, breathe, and then respond calmly, the entire audience can see who's really in control. You can practice slowing down in small, everyday ways. The next time someone irritates you, instead of speaking immediately, count to 3 in your head. The next time you get an angry message, resist the urge to reply right away. Step away, breathe, and return later with a clear mind. The more you practice slowing down in little things, the more natural it becomes when the big triggers come. And here's the most powerful part. Slowing down doesn't just change how you handle others. It changes how you handle yourself. It makes you more patient, more thoughtful, more self-aware. It gives you the ability to manage not just moments of conflict, but life as a whole. You stop rushing into mistakes. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You begin living with intention instead of reaction. So when someone tries to trigger you, don't rush. Don't let your emotions grab the steering wheel. Breathe, pause, step back mentally. Give yourself the space to choose. Because in that space, in that moment of slowing down, lies your greatest power, the ability to respond, not react. At the end of it all, staying calm when everyone tries to trigger you comes down to one powerful truth. Your peace is your responsibility. No one else owns it, no one else can protect it for you, and no one else should have the ability to take it from you. The world will always test you through strangers, friends, colleagues, and sometimes even family. People will poke, prod, and push, trying to get a rise out of you, consciously or unconsciously. But how you respond is entirely in your hands. That is where your power lies. We've seen that when you give people your reaction, you also give them your control. They may feel victorious for a moment, but the cost is your energy, your clarity, and your dignity. The opposite is also true. When you remain calm, when you breathe through the moment and refuse to let them dictate your emotions, you reclaim control. You shift the power dynamic instantly because calmness is not weakness. It's dominance over yourself. And once you master yourself, no one else can master you. The key is to slow everything down and recognize that calm is a choice. It may not feel easy, especially in the heat of provocation, but with practice, it becomes second nature. Every pause you take, every deep breath, every time you hold back from reacting immediately, you are building strength. You are training your mind to rise above chaos instead of sinking into it. This discipline doesn't just make you unshakable in conflicts. It makes you a stronger leader, a wiser thinker, and a more grounded human being. Staying calm also means protecting your energy. Instead of wasting hours or days replaying arguments in your mind, you keep your focus where it belongs, on your goals, your growth, and your peace. You stop giving free rent in your head to people who don't deserve it. You stop letting their storm become your storm. You learn to let them drown in their own negativity while you walk away intact, stronger than before. And here's the deeper truth. Calmness transforms you. It teaches you patience. It teaches you awareness. It teaches you that silence can be louder than shouting and composure more effective than confrontation. Over time, you'll notice that people who once tried to trigger you will stop because they realize it doesn't work anymore. They can't play a game you refuse to play. And in that moment, you'll know you've mastered something most people never will. The art of self-control. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember, they can only win if you let them. You don't need to defend yourself against every insult, and you don't need to answer every jab. Your calm is your shield, your composure is your weapon, and your silence is often your loudest statement. Protect your peace because it's the most valuable thing you own. Once you learn to stay calm in the storm loses its power over you, and you become unstoppable.